start recording, and I would like to welcome everybody. Hello. So thank you for stopping by today, or maybe thank you for stopping by later and checking out the archive of this. This is me coming back to my level design retrospective, which I did quite a few episodes on just like at the end of the last year, beginning of this year, and I looked at a bunch of my early work, my amateur work, at my Doom levels and my Quake levels. And the idea was that, well, it was just triggered by this realization that who I am today as a game designer, I've been a professional game designer and level designer now for 17 years, has very much been shaped by a lot of my early work. And as I've been going through my career, I can look back at what I was doing at that point and like actually create a really nice retrospective and kind of discover on the stream how I became the game designer I've become. So looking at Doom and Quake was very informative. We're going to look today at the first game I actually shipped professionally, and that is SiN. And there's a bunch of, SiN, looking back at it now, it's definitely a child of its times. There's a lot of stuff that I will be able to just bitch about. There's a lot of holes I'll be able to drive a truck through. But I think it's interesting to go back to it and, we discover why things were the way they were. Now on top of this I think is a good stream just to check out, because this was my transition from being an amateur level designer to becoming a professional level designer. And without going into too much detail now, so I might do it a little bit after this stream. We'll see how much we actually have to look at when we're looking at SiN. I started making Quake Doom levels in 95, I believe. Then moved on to Quake levels in 96 and 97. Beyond Belief, which was my mission pack, came out in May of 97. And I started working at Ritual in March of 98. And that was actually that late purely because of visa issues. I actually got a job offer sometimes in the summer of 97. So between all of the Doom work I'd done and then my Quake work and all of the contacts that I had, because a whole bunch of my friends had been who had been hanging out with me on IRC channels like Doom Ed and Quake Ed, had been hired by various companies. Through all of this work, that was pretty much my calling card, and that's how I got the job offer. It just took a little bit longer because the visa took about 7 or 8 months. This was before 9/11, and even then, because of the visa I ultimately got, which was in 01, which helped me a lot later on, I gotta thank Ritual just alone for that, but it took a while to actually get everything vetted. So I remember trying to go to E3 in Atlanta in 97, because I was hanging out in IRC. Giggler, like Mike Waldwell, was a good friend on IRC, and he'd been hired at Ritual already, and we were talking about how all of these industry friends who got hired in the, development friends actually got hired in the industry. And he at some point, hey look, my green screen unfortunately got screwed up again, I'm going to fix that. So Mike suggested that why don't you come over here and talk to various companies? I mean, why not? There's a good chance that you're going to find a job. So I actually asked my grandmother for enough money to fly to E3 in 97 in Atlanta. And I was going to find a bunch of people, we're going to hang out at industry parties and so on. And that's how I was going to introduce myself. And ultimately, that trip never happened because there was a snafu with, let's see if I can adjust this here a little bit. There was a snafu with the flights. I actually got there too late for the flight, like driving for 4 hours in the train. So ultimately then, I got invited to QuakeCon. The very second QuakeCon in 97, I hung out with the Ritual guys, like at QuakeCon. They got me a ticket for an entire week, so I got to hang out afterwards. This is where I made Armageddon 3, actually, the beginning of Armageddon 3 for Quake. Because, I couldn't work on SiN while I was hanging out there, but, I didn't have anything to do for a while. And, yeah, so I got a job offer, and back in 98 then, sometime in March 98, I moved over there. So, that's just a little bit of backstory. And, like the moral here is, so if you're looking into how to get into the industry, I'm not even sure exactly how applicable it is, because for one, there were no degrees back then, right? Like, you could mod games, and I modded games. I was pretty fearless about it. I think like every good modder back then, I just held myself to the same standard as the games which were already out there, made really good Quake and Doom levels, and had enough contacts, just kind of by luck, because of people I knew who got hired, and that's how it went back then. I think that still works today, by the way. You don't need a game industry degree, you don't need a game design degree or whatever. I'm not against it. I'm just saying that if you want to go to a school, and there's some really good ones, the Guildhall, is a really good one, for example, you should use it to build a portfolio, because ultimately that's how you're going to get hired. It's not really so much the degree, it doesn't matter, it's the portfolio. And if you need a school to create that kind of portfolio, that's awesome. We have a lot of like-minded people you get to hang out with, you got access to all of the software that you need, and you certainly have access to teachers and computers as well, so use that to your advantage. But you don't need to. Just like back then, I just was able to do things on my own and get a job that way. So let's stop talking about the background and let's start looking at SiN. And you know what, before we go any further, let's just bring it up. So I didn't actually start it, it's not running in the background. I'm going to start it for the first time now, just to give you an idea. Watch the intro again, which it's incredibly low res, I found out, but it's actually interesting to see. Unfortunately today I was not able to, honestly also didn't want to, fear of screwing something up, go to widescreen. So it's going to be 4:3 aspect ratio, it's not going to fill up the entire screen today. But that's what we're going to do. So let's look at SiN and just bring it up initially. So there we go. That is SiN. Let me log in here real quick. Everybody has their own profile. So there's a little bit of history as to, this game came out in, I think, October of '98. It was very much at the same time that Half-Life came out as well. It's not nearly as well known as Half-Life, mostly because it's not nearly as good as Half-Life. There's some other reasons as well, just that it was really bug-ridden, bug-plagued at the very beginning. It took forever to load, something we didn't really figure out. There was actually a patch which had to be released later, which broke everybody's save games. There were a bunch of ways in which I think as a production this could have been handled so much better. With that said, it's actually a pretty good game going back to it, and when you look at it as a sign of the times. It was heavily influenced by Duke Nukem, because a whole bunch of the people who worked on this game before making the Quake mission pack worked on Duke Nukem, worked at 3D Realms. So there's definitely, when it comes to the interactivity and just the ambitions as to what you can do in the environment and how you can interact with it, there's a lot that it took from Duke Nukem Forever, and it tried to actually build on from that. Because I got to it pretty late, as I mentioned, the visa took 7 or 8 months. I only was working on this game for 7 months or something like that, March to October. So I didn't really get to make that many levels. I got to pick up a whole bunch of stuff that either somebody had started working on or just hadn't been started yet. I ended up making pretty much all of the cutscenes in this game, and that was a big deal for back then. Looking back at them, we will be able to laugh at them for so many different reasons. And then I made 2 levels and I finished 1 level. So I made Chem 2, which I want to look at in detail. I made the Aqueduct, which was one of these action-based outcome levels that we had in SiN. The idea was that depending on how you played the levels ahead of time, later levels would change and you could actually see different levels depending on what you did. This one was really hard to reach because I think you had to fail twice to actually get to the aqueduct. So it's interesting. A lot of people might never actually have seen it. And then I worked on the second level after the bank, which was abandoned. And I just finished it up. Mike Wardwell had started it, and I finished. Just did some cleanup and made it shippable in the end. So let's just start with the beginning. This is the intro cutscene, which we didn't really have. We might actually have had a script for it. I am not entirely sure. And I remember, I don't even remember when I made it. We can look at the script later and see exactly when that happened. But yeah, it was fun. Like, you have to remember the kind of games which were out at that point in the first-person shooter realm. You had Duke Nukem Forever, Duke Nukem 3D at that point, which was very much like on the high end of world interactivity. It wasn't really trying to tell a story so much either, though. Quake and Quake 2 didn't really try to tell a story, certainly not in real-life environments. Unreal wasn't really trying to tell a story in real-life environments. It had some really nice environmental storytelling and just the way that that world worked in the first place. But this was a lot of uncharted territory, really, when you think about it. And I learned a lot just coming from only having made abstract dungeons myself, right? In Doom and Quake 2. And trying to tell a story and trying to make everything work within like a real-life environment was interesting. So this is one of the first cutscenes that I think you ever saw in these kind of 3D games. Somebody, a historian, can probably correct me and tell me some other first-person shooters that really try to tell a story. But I think that's one of the ways in which SiN actually was pretty advanced for its time. Now we can look at the quality, which we will do right now, but it just gives you a little bit of backdrop. So we will do a new game, and we'll just use Officer for, I think, well, we will be loading games later anyway. So here's the beginning of SiN and the cutscene I made.
You're listening to KILL 105 FM, 3 Boards and Fast Music.
Tech Forces Emergency. Code Delta 9. Freeport City Bank was just taken over. Robbery in progress.
Damn. Any word on how many there are?
There's an undisclosed number of assailants with hostages still inside. They're heavily fortified and deeply entrenched already.
Get the assault chopper ready.
Already done that, boss.
Good work. What's the word from our team in that sector?
It's not good, boss. We've lost contact and suspect that they've been cut off, or worse.
All railway seals. Hostiles are armed and extremely dangerous. Approach with deadly force.
Hey, Chief. Are we locked and loaded yet?
Yes, sir. Ready to roll.
Roger that. Hey, Blade, give him hell.
You got it. Okay, Chief. Let's punch it.
And then let's move right next into the next mission, because I did that initial intro as well. And then Thomas Dane took over. But just to give you an idea how that connects.
Hey, that was a good shot. That's nothing compared with last week. I shot this cop in the head. He never even saw it coming. Yeah, those rent-a-cop guys are whipped. Hey, what's that sound?
Surprise!
And that's how the game starts, trying to go directly into gameplay. So at this point, Tom takes over. Let's finish this real quick here, because it's actually fun to play.
Remember, boss, civilians are not Swiss cheese. So keep the non-hostile body count down.
Approaching tank on Victor Elway Lane. Hostile forces firing at 3 o'clock, sir.
Let me out.
Keep him where you are.
We'll put this down as well, I believe. there's another guy. There's another guy there too.
Nice shooting, son.
Way to hit the mark there, Blade.
Can I take this down? I don't remember. Nope. And the thing with that, because we can actually look at our
Driver, rooftop
objectives
landing
here.
at the bank. I'll keep an eye on what's
Make
going
it
on
in.
inside the bank with the security cams.
Let's try to load, to land on the bank.
Officer, all top you here, dust off.
And with that, we go into this Freeport City Bank. So I'm going to look at that level just a little bit, because I think it's going to give you a good idea as to how SiN really works at a game, what the underlying aesthetics are. I don't want to finish this level. I want to go to the next one. It's the first one I kind of worked on. This was also our demo, by the way, which came out on SiN Day, Bloody SiN Day, which I think is what they called it. But yes, as we go in here, well, actually, here's a cutscene I made, which, now again, like, this is Shakespeare as interpreted by Marty Scorsese, right? Except not at all. It's like really,
If you don't start moving faster, I'll get someone who will.
yeah.
We're moving as fast as we can, sir.
Well, it's not fast enough. Keep moving while I go check out perimeter.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not sure how anybody would actually have shot that. And if you're looking at making good in-game cutscenes, of course, yes, you have virtual cameras these days, but there's absolutely no weight to the camera, right? It's just on a spline doing things that a real-life camera could never ever do, obviously. But hey, it's fun to kind of just look at it, and a lot of this, again, just me
We need to end this.
making the first cutscenes ever and putting something in here. Makes sense. So, SiN as a game, let's actually see. So I think one thing I can do here, you see how these streams start fading in and out? I think I can actually go to the controls and make that zoom in, or make that zoom out way further away. Let me see. Advanced video options. And no, actually everything is on the very, very top. It's just, okay. So one of the innovations we had is that we actually had computer screens that you could look at, and you could actually log into this ATM. I of course don't know anything, but there's a little bit of an adventure aspect to it, because I could probably find these. In fact, I think I can find the account number for Alexa Sinclair, which is the like the boss, like the oops, where'd that guy come from?
Already got it.
She's like the big villain in here, and I can clear out her bank account, for example. So, let's go into the bank and see where everybody is. There was another entrance, I thought, to this mission as well. I think the one I just got was actually the optimal one. Let's see. Need a quarter for these. Look, those guys were coming down. One thing you keep doing in this game, again and again and again, is standing over bodies and pressing the use button to pick up armor. It's really important to not run out of health. You can see it at the bottom right corner, of course. Nope. And look, there's some health right here. And this was one of the first games, if not the first game, that actually had, well, I'm sure Half-Life had it as well when it came out, but that had hit zone detection, and that was actually pixel accurate as to how you could shoot at people. So as you're looking at this, I think I have a secondary objective to
Get out of here.
rescue these people. See, because I destroyed some of the ceilings in the previous level, this is broken now. Just little touches like that I will put in here. But so I want to actually get a headshot. Alright, first headshot. Good. These damage skins were important as well. Not everybody had that back then, so you could clearly see how and where people were getting hurt. Soldier of Fortune came out then, I think, and took it to the next level with dismemberment and stuff that we were not really interested.
Wait, what are you doing?
Oh,
Those are friendly
I have no
hostiles.
idea how I even killed that woman. Did not mean to. But yeah, it was nice. Like when we actually got that, because this is something that happened during development. When we actually got this pinpoint accuracy in there, like it's something that couldn't get enough of, right? Because hey, look, this you can shoot through their legs, and the crosshair actually tells you. Like it was not a big deal at all today, but back then it just gives you an idea of what the state of the industry really was back then. Now, did I find? Here we go. Did I find another weapon? Yes, so I think the weapon models as well, for back then, were actually really cool and advanced. If you look at something like Quake 2 actually back then, and I think even Half-Life compared to that, these actually look pretty cool. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna finish this level real quick.
Don't just stand there. Go kill him.
Hey, go on, JC.
I got a quota.
Where things are going? I'm working on it, Blade. Open it, Blade, and I... What? Oh, damn, they just locked me out of the system. And someone sure doesn't want me snooping around in here.
Alright, see what else we have up here. So, a lot of things, the environmental destruction was a big deal. Like seeing these like tessellated impact effects and so on. It's just a bunch of ways in which security door. Being able to shoot out the lights. There actually was a version of this level in which not only you could shoot out the lights, but the light maps were turned off as well. It's just that because everything was pre-baked, right? The level just became way too big. The light map data in it became way too heavy. So ultimately that was removed. But would have been possible. Just wasn't shipped that way. So I think I could have come into the front door as well. And I think some of my security buddies, because this is Blade. Wait, come on. Blade runs a security company, right? And his guys have come here as well. Like it's a private police, pretty much, in the future. So I can help these guys right now.
We're headed over there now. Help them out. Keep going, Blade.
So I think one way to actually come in here would have been to this front entrance.
Already got it.
I think Mike made this level, by the way. Mike Giggler made this level. I don't want to lie, but I'm pretty sure it was him. And then maybe Tom finished it up. I'm not even sure entirely anymore. But yeah, so there's just multiple ways to get through here. The idea that there's slightly circular levels. It's not nearly on the level of a Deus Ex or something, right? Like another seminal game that came out just a little bit later that really showed us how an immersive sim should work. But it tried to, for a shooter, like go a little bit more into that kind of direction. Wait, I have a wife and kid, kill them. That's the kind of tone that you got out of this game. More stuff broken here. Okay, so let's go to where we were before, which was, I'm kind of going all the way around here right now. There's a somewhat dynamic music system. Zach Alicia was, I think it's Epic now, was making the music, and yeah, the music just kind of comes in and goes out. So I'm already kind of lost actually, which is kind of embarrassing. How did I get so lost? So you can come through here, you can come back up there, that's where I just was, but then I found the dead end. So apologies, this is taking way longer than it should. So, oh yes, of course, through here. That's what I did before. So SiN started out on the Quake 1 engine, and about halfway through we went to Quake 2, which, like the initial cutscenes, the initial cutscenes were in fact, the initial screenshots that were released were in fact in Quake 1, and then we added Quake 2 for radiosity support and a bunch of other ways. To just upgrade the engine. Now, I'm trying to remember how to actually get through the security door. Now, there is a way to get, so this is like the way that all of these levels worked out. Oh, I think it's in here, that's good. Here you go.
On to safety. Thanks, man. Get out of here.
Oh, thank God.
Don't forget to save every so often.
Nope, no.
All of this is destructible, like all of these doors, and this was all hand scripted by the level designer. If I guess I can punch it to death, theoretically.
Did that make you happy, Blade?
No, that's stuck just a little bit here. Let's see. Get myself stuck. There we go. But so all of this had to be set up as level entities, which could then break. Let's make our way up here.
We need the vault com. It's in here somewhere. See if you can find it.
Aha, this is how we get around this one. Anybody played SiN Emergence, I think is what it was called.
Already got it.
The episodic version of it, which didn't go too far. This, you might remember her. So we're in the security vault. Let's see, we can get some nice stuff here. Cool. Oops, hello there.
Already got it.
And the idea here is, so for one we have, if we can still see this, for one we have various security cameras that we can now use to look at the rest of the bank. This is the vault we're trying to get to. Somebody who's still stuck.
Already got it.
And this is one of these consoles we can use. So I'm going to unlock all of the security doors. I'm going to go back to the main menu. I'm going to look at the vault security. So we're going to set this to low because otherwise we're going to get shot at. I'm going to look at the current vault passcode, and I have no idea if this was randomized or not. It's 2 and 3. Good. And now let's go back to customer accounts. So if we find somebody, and I don't even know exactly who we can look up here. I know we can look up Sinclair. Nope. Alexis. Sinclair. Nope. Yeah, I'm not sure. But so we could actually go in here and we could find account information and go to the ATM that we saw earlier. And even go to a command prompt. And this was all scripted, right? So ultra large doorways 36. I'm not sure what we can do in here. Here we go, help, CD. Oh, that's right, so we don't know actually who it is. So this is how we can actually, if you remember DOS. So let's see. Let's dir and let's CD data. See what's in there. Hey, look at that. We have a bunch of passwords and we have an INI file as well. So let's see again. Do we have a type? Freeport City Bank, I think is what SFCD stands for. C01.pwd. And look at that. We actually have different accounts here and we can see how much money is in there. Obviously none of it is actually encrypted. So we can also, there's an INI I think I just saw. I don't know what's in there. But these were all the kind of Easter eggs which were in this game, which are really cool to come back to now, like 15 years or more than, almost 17 years later to rediscover. Branch Freeport, there's a wallpaper. This must have been Charlie Wiederholt who actually scripted this. Because the wallpaper is set to Jennifer Love Hewitt is hot.dmp, and that would have been him at that point. But yeah, so there's a whole bunch of ways in which we could now transfer money and so on. We're not going to do that, but I think this is really cool. I mean, how many games even today are going to have these kind of like this kind of interactivity? Look at that, my webcam is just, it's going to give me so much grief today. I'm not even sure I'm going to be able to keep it adjusted the entire time. On the stream, you guys should scream every time that actually happens. I hope everybody's still there, by the way. I'm pretty sure we're still streaming. But yeah, we will try to keep the green screen going. I don't know if anything is in here. No, but we could destroy this. But yes, the interactivity I think behind this is really cool. This apparently are the guys who are running the bank. I think this is what we could see.
Shot my gun out of my hand.
I don't know if you could hear this while it was going on. He said, damn, the guy shot the gun out of my hand. Which was actually possible every so often. You'd lose your gun, it's right down there, and guys would shoot it out of your hand. I don't know how useful that really is, if I would put that in a game again, but...
Get out of here. Oh, I'm saved.
I accidentally shot a guy earlier, so I'm not actually going to be able to finish all of my secondary objectives. I remember correctly. Hey, look at that. Found a secret, and there's something in there. Okay. But so, we have the code, and what was the code again? Was it 2 and 3? Let's make sure I remember. 2 and 3. So we will go and open the vault and not get shot at. Oh yeah, my green screen is wigging out again already behind me. So now one thing I'm going to do. Oops, well maybe not right now. There's somebody shooting at me. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust this a little bit so that I'm not obstructing the picture at least. Because yeah, I just have the sun coming in and out the entire time today, and it's just wreaking havoc with my setup here. Let's move this over here a little bit. Let's move SiN all the way over here. There we go. And I apologize for it not being the most professional stream we can have, but hopefully, hey, at least the content hopefully is good today. Okay, let's go back. Okay, and back to the game. So let's put in 2 and 3 and try the handle, and here we go.
Wait a sec. I'm picking up thermal activity in the abandoned building next door. Follow the tunnel and check it out.
Roger that, JC. I'm going in.
Wait for the backup.
No time to wait. I'm going in. Already got it.
Here we are. I think there were a couple here that you could actually open and take some stuff from. Oh, like this one right here, for example.
Hey! Now isn't that interesting?
Found a secret here as well. And we will exit the level. There we go. So that's a SiN level. And that gives you a really good idea what SiN was all about, or certainly what its ambitions were, because I feel like it is an incredibly obtuse game. I think all of the content is there and would have been really, really awesome for the time. It's just that we didn't quite know, or we couldn't help ourselves, or we didn't have enough time, whatever it was, to make everything accessible enough and communicating all of the ways in which this game could be played well enough. We certainly didn't do any playtesting either, so I know what this level looks or works like, for example, but I feel that a lot of people had a hard time with this game just because, you know, it was really hard to understand everything you could do right there. Now, as a shooter, I think it was fine. It's a competent shooter for the time. There's like so many ways in which I would change the gameplay and would add prioritization choice to it and make sure that the underlying combat has more variation and more ways in which players should have an opinion in it. But you know, it was decent for the time. So that brings us to the next level, which is called Abandon, if I remember it correctly. And I hope you guys can see it well enough. It's kind of dark. It's supposed to be kind of dark. Let's go in here and adjust the brightness a little bit. I think that might be a little bit better. It's supposed to be a dark hallway, so yeah, sure, go ahead. So I didn't make the last level, as I mentioned. I only did the cutscenes. I didn't really make much in this level either, but this was all Mike Wardwell as well, if I remember correctly. I finished it up though, and I actually managed, like, I made it shippable and did a bunch of scripting in the end.
I got a recipe for you, Quake.
Oops.
Damn, I'm trapped.
So we have to get out of here. This is how you do it. I'm not sure if you would find it. If you don't get out of there, you die. You get killed. You have to make your way all the way up to here. Oops. Without dying. And I fell down again. I might actually die here, guys. Just because controls. Let's try it one more time. There we go. Oh, and I made it. Okay. But yeah, so that's what this game tried to do. Have some nice scripted moments as well in it. And generally just create a more believable world in which all of this took place. So we are in a somewhat abandoned part of the city, or somewhat ramshackle part of the city. Whoa. Behind the bank, so that was the idea behind this. There's little rats nibbling away at me.
I smell gas.
Yeah, I think what you could do with the gas here, if I remember correctly, is set it on fire and take out the poor bum over here. There we go. Somebody or something set that off.
See if you can find some of the stolen money. They had to have stashed some of it around here somewhere.
See what that does for progression. There's a lot of money in there.
Alright! FCB is gonna be happy that you recovered that.
Already got it.
See back here. Oh, I think that's where they tried to take away the money. So yeah, all of this was pretty much Giggler, and I remember like scripting or cleaning some of this up at the very end. Now let's see how we actually make our way through here. Stupid rats. We're all the way up here. Oh boy, I'm not even sure, so I'm gonna save here anyway. Well, I think we can go back through here, that was the idea. So I made this collapse earlier, and now I have my progression right here. Yep. I made more abandoned building. I think I remember
He can run, but he can't hide.
when I visited Ritual for Quake 97. It was still on the Quake 1 engine. I'm pretty sure Mike was working on this and this part of the game right here. And he was doing it in BSP, because he used BSP to make his Quake levels. And Jan Benier, I'm completely butchering his name, I'm sure, and I apologize, who made BSP, had all been hired by Valve at that point and was working there, but he was nice enough to actually change BSP as the editor slightly so that, where am I getting shot from? So that Mike could still use it. I was going to use BSP initially as well, but ultimately moved over to SiN Ed, which was, you know, Quake Ed, like its tools, but we made the one big change to it, and that was isometric viewports, so that you could look at it from, you had side views, like 2D side views as well as a 3D view. It's something that the Quake editor did not have. So I went from Quest, which is what I made Beyond Belief with, to BSP, which I made some of my Quake 2 levels and most of my later Quake 1 deathmatch levels with, to then SiN Ed / Quake Ed.
Why don't you come out here and show me how it's done?
Okay. And I think there's a bunch of things in there. I mean, you know, it feels like the levels have a little bit of autonomy to them. There's a bunch of different ways to it. Unless you're looking at things, like you feel like, hey, maybe I'm missing some things. So I'm going from here to here. There's a ladder here. Can I jump up there? Well, almost good. Oh, okay, I'm gonna load back here. Guys, I don't want to do this again. I'm sure there's a way, like once you're down there, to get back up and so on, but come on, here we go. So I remember scripting some of this up, just like at the very end. Parts of these floors falling out, etc., those kind of things. Don't really feel ownership, right? I didn't establish any of this, I just came in and finished some of it up. Which of course is something I'd never done before either, so if we're looking into going from making my own amateur levels to actually becoming like a professional level designer and working on a team.
Man, this is one crazy place.
Sharing levels, certainly something that is new. So we covered a lot of money and finished the secondary objective. Doesn't mean anything, unfortunately. I think at some point we might have had an idea that you could go back to your headquarters between missions and you could invest this money into like better gear and so on. Without it, it's completely meaningless, and ultimately, you know, those kind of things fall flat. But hey, for the completionist player, I guess finding these kind of secondary objectives was important. I remember, so this was after Unreal had come out, right? And we figured, hey, we gotta be able to make really cool lights with lens flares as well. And this was our quick hacked version of that, where somebody, for some of these lights, put one of these lens flares in there, made them additive. Oops, top. Put that on top, and yeah. That's the big contribution, well, it's one of the many big contributions that Unreal had made for everybody who was working on first-person shooters now had to make sure that they had these kind of lens flares for their lights. Okay, so let's see, how do I best make it down there? Can I go through here? Probably not. I'll probably have to actually try to jump this correctly. All the way over here, jump over here, go past here. Oh man, this is... Oh, and then I was going to say then they put guys here. That must have been me. And I kind of hate myself for that. I think this is the end of the level. So yeah, you see the little exit up there. Tell the player that, hey, you're moving on. Here we are. So yeah, I don't remember all of this. Hey look, my green screen is fucked up again. Let's look at this amazing cutscene made by yours truly.
I got some bad news. Blade is tracking us. I tried to lose him, but he's like one of your... My men are keeping him busy, but we better get out of here now. Incompetent slug. Hey, it's not my fault. We should have been in and out of there much quicker, but he just blew right through us. I really want to cut off his head and stick it up his freaking ear.
Mancini, you failed me again.
But Alexia!
If you had just done what I asked and stolen the safety deposit box, you wouldn't be in this situation now, would you, Mancini?
Instead, you decided to launch a full-scale bank heist.
Did you really think I would find out?
No, it's not like that. I swear.
I'm growing tired of your antics, Mancini. Your bumbling has cost me dearly one too many times.
Daddy is busy right now. Can you come back later?
You to change.
Okay, but not right now.
Oh my God!
Go and see mommy, okay? I'll see you
How
soon.
did you do that?
Okay.
What's going on?
Yes.
No! It burns. I gotta get away.
Alrighty, well we're just full of like technical difficulties today, aren't we? So yes, my son just came up and wanted something from me as well. And hey, it's fine. It's just gonna be one of those streams. Again, I feel that Like my green screen just keeps going away again and again. I'm just gonna be pretty aggressive with the settings now, and my son just wanted to look at something. But hey, as long as we're having fun, we're having fun. Move me a little bit over here again. There we go. That's good. But yeah, so you know, another one of these cutscenes, which I didn't exactly go to film school for them. And if you know the 5 C's of cinematography, there's about -1 C's in there. Like, I'm breaking pretty much every single rule. I didn't write these actual cutscenes, but I did implement them. And before we move on now, so I don't necessarily want to keep playing all these levels. You've seen some of the work, and you've seen how everything comes together now. Let's look a little bit more into how this was actually done, and how this was actually implemented, because this was interesting to me. There was a scripting language. These days you probably would have a visual scripting language, but there was a scripting language which I think Jim Dosé had created, or maybe Mark Doctorman, one of the two of them. We used to script all of this. And let me see. Well, let's look at the intro real quick here. And so if I bring up Notepad right here, see if you guys can actually see this. Let me see. Another technical difficulty. Oh, that's because my order is incorrect. Here we go. So this was the intro cutscene that we looked at this point, like 45 minutes ago or so. And this is something, this is code, it's not code, let's not even call it code, it's nowhere near programming, this is scripting very clearly. And in fact it's just, yeah, it's really simple. But this is the entire script which I wrote in '98 and which controls the entire intro cutscene. And I would have to go through here and specifically see how things work, but we see from the beginning that there were threads that I could fire off. That tell necessary commands chronologically. You can see all my typos here, and my English wasn't really that good back then, since it's pretty straightforward. This has changed from the demo to make it localization friendly. Also add the cinematic flag, so at skipping the cinematic becomes easier than wait for player. I also added wait for player. So yeah, so there's a script here. The dialog file for the script, which we could look at as well. Let me actually see if I can find one of them. So all of these existed in the same directory as the map files. So if I was to find intro start script and we bring this in here, let's see. Oh, never mind. Dialog intro cinema script is what it's called. You know what? I actually don't know where these live. They don't live in exactly the same. So let's not worry about it. One more thing we might be able to bring up though, and let's see where the bank stuff would be. Oil rig, hot air, railroad. I'm looking at all of the menu files. I think at least I am. No. Never mind. I thought I could find pretty easily the files that controlled these interactive screens that we looked at earlier. But I don't see them immediately. But yeah, if you wanted to see one more script for the cutscene we just looked at, I would think it's called... Well, let's see, I'm gonna find what it's called. Here's the bank script. Oops. Sorry. Here is the bank script. So different people wrote this differently, of course. But what's interesting, you know, because it's a sign of the times, as we're looking at these scripts, there's a whole bunch of Easter eggs or just like comments in there as well. So I'm wondering what the abandoned cinema script is that we just looked at. This is the actual script for abandon. And you can see how most of this is Mike's scripting, and then I added myself towards it in the end. Just because this is not my style. You probably wouldn't actually be able to tell that. Now, Biomax Cinema would be something that I would have created. Oh yeah, Biomax Cinematic. There aren't really any cool comments in here, I believe. Frog legs, remove disk and place it on disk, remove lift, return to center empty. This I did not write. This must have been Tom, for example. Yeah. Let's see what else. Seaside Cinema, I think that's the one we just looked at. As I'm writing this, Death Row gets spanked by Clan 9, and I'd really like to talk to some of the people who always told me that there was almost no chance that any clan could be better than an American one. Wow, so this must have been, I don't know if you guys remember this, there was like a world championship where we had Clan 9 from Sweden, I believe, and then we had well, Death Row, which is the clan that Thresh played for in America, and people kept constantly talking about which side of the world was better at Quake, and they had like a world championship, and I think Clan 9 won like 8-2 or something like that. And I was watching it and gleefully commenting on it in the script that I wrote back then. But yeah, so again, this is how that cutscene was actually controlled. Without going too much deeper into it, it's kind of interesting. Okay, so I would say let's just keep looking at levels and see how we put this kind of scripting to good use. And for that, let's look at the Aqueduct level instead of
Where did he go?
So let's do, and I think this is AQ1. Yes. That's one of the levels I want to look at, and then the chemical lab as well. So as I mentioned earlier, this was one of these action-based outcome levels, which were really hard to reach, but the idea was that if you failed somewhere or you did something ahead of time, you could actually, it would affect the game later on. There was a whirlpool in one of the sewer levels that you had to go through, and if you fell into this whirlpool, you ended up in this level right here, which is more of a joyride, and you're trying to get back up to the surface again. So you fall.
Oh man, that was one hairy ride you took there, boss.
Yeah, nothing like almost drowning to wake you up quick. Now let's see. How can I get out of this pipe? Looks like somebody solved that problem for me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sure you can see this better now. So all of that dialogue was written by us, the level designers, right? And it is so obvious that a lot of it is just the level designer talking directly to the player. The way and how heavily we lean on this to explain things in the level. JC, pretty much the all-knowing eye in the sky who always knows everything that we need the player to know. It's pretty ridiculous.
Jackpot!
Especially by today's standards. But that's how it was written. JC, you were able to meet him, I think, if you go to the training map, but I think there was a bigger thread at some point where you could go back the entire time and see him sitting there. JC was modeled after John Carmack, just like in spirit only. That's why it's called JC.
Damn! That thing is armed!
Okay, so this entire map was, if I remember it correctly, was very heavily based on these little mines that
Where's
you
the
could
best way out of here?
attach everywhere.
There's a maintenance shaft about halfway down the line, and the routing junction is down near the end.
Oh, there we go. The level designer just told us how we get out of here. Because, you know, that's the only way I could do it. So how do I get out of here? Well, hey look, there is a spark here, I believe. And also the lighting is off slightly, which is how game designers would actually find it. But yeah. All of this was scripted again, right? Like these kind of animations were like there were various rotations and so on to make it kind of spin around out of control. Okay, so I see right now on the screen that the game is really loud, so let's bring the audio down a little bit. Let's see if we can do that. I hope that's better. Can you guys hear me better now? I hope so. I think the music was kind of loud. Yes, and I hope this is better. I can, if not, let me know and I'll turn it down even more. So as I mentioned earlier, this had, I think, a lot of really cool ideas and nice interactivity and so on. It's just the way it went about things was just really bad. Like the affordance of things. How would you know, for example, that these things can be broken. There is no consistent visual language for that. That's what I have to do here, right? Whoa.
Oh man, and I forgot my waterways.
Didn't write all of this. My English wasn't good enough. But yeah, so I'm in the aqueducts now. And let's see where it takes us. Go right.
Damn it. What the hell is happening now?
Oh.
Looks like some kind of net used to filter the water.
That again was neat. Just explaining things.
That one laying in the water.
Okay, what do I do now?
Damn. That bastard locked the door. There has to be a way to open that gate again.
Can I get through here? Okay, so what do I do? Health, yeah, I don't even need health though. Controls. What do I do? Okay. So the one visual language I actually did have were these, let me check this real quick. Manual override. In the case of emergency, all gates can be opened manually by using the override levers. Show current combination. X. XX. Okay. Okay, so before I drown, like this? No, I think the other way around. Like this? Yes. Alright. Okay, so we had a little bit of visual language because at least all of the keyboards that could be used to affect these kind of consoles were green. Of course, this was incredibly hard to find right here. And just in general, like, I never ever tested this, right? It's kind of cool as a sequence and as a puzzle, but how many people died here? How many times before they actually figured this out? Because you were going to drown right here.
That bastard locked the door.
Okay, but I think now we can keep moving on. Let's save over this, just so we don't have to come back to this. And let's keep going. Oh, there's a guy up there. Whoa! Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, oh, those are those mines. See, can I get up there? Yes. See, I think this is secret if I remember correctly, because, yeah, you just go down here. This is another one of these. Like, if I was to actually just go straight down here, I think this down there kills me. And there's no way to actually understand that that's going to happen. But hey, let's not worry about that right now. I think I just found a secret by going up here. Oh no, I think this was a way out of here, like a better way out of here. Let's see.
Nope, already got it.
Okay, I think this can be destroyed. Does that allow me to do anything though? I can barely see here. You know what? I'm gonna bring the brightness up even a little bit more for us. That changes here. Let's see if we can see a little bit better. Yeah, I'm not even sure what this one does. Let's see what else is here. Look at that guy. Man, he's gonna kill me if I'm not careful. He just killed me. Oh wow, good thing we saved. Okay, this is a quick load. And hey look, the sun just came out and now my green screen is... My forehead has a very interesting sheen to it. So, Lens Charleston asked, was this level in the mission pack? And no, it was not. This was actually, it's just nobody ever saw this level because you had to do two different things to actually find it. So it's like an action-based outcome. So yeah, this is like, let's call it the best kept secret of SiN. So let's see if I can make my way up here again. But yeah, so this was a level that you could have experienced in SiN. I would love to see the actual rates of people who found it. It must have been like 2% or less. The SiN mission pack though, it's actually interesting, was made by the guys at 2015. It was incredibly creative, had a whole bunch of really cool stuff in it, and, in case you don't know, was the company that first made Medal of Honor. Oh man, and I got killed again. First made Medal of Honor, and then later on created Infinity Ward and created Call of Duty. all the way to Modern Warfare 2. Just to give you an idea of who those people are and the amount of talent was there. That's where the mission pack for SiN was actually really, really cool. Okay, let's try this one more time and let's save a little bit better. Okay, so I think the entire idea behind this level was that it's gonna string you along. You're just trying to make your way out of here, obviously. And there's just a couple of fun things. It's more like a joyride, or a couple of fun things that happened on the way. Like as a level structure, it's very clearly designed to kind of flush you through, and then every so often, like you stop, and then it flushes you through again. Okay, let's see if I this time can not get myself killed. Save again. Do not have anything else I can use right here. Let's see. Like when it comes to sense and feedback, these games back then were just terrible. Like there's no real sound, there's no real status report on what these guys are doing. You know, like it's enemy design 101. I'm not saying SiN was particularly bad at it, it's just the games at the time were pretty bad at it. I think Unreal was decent about it. Okay, so this was actually the way in which this I think is interesting. We might look at the script later for this. So I think the idea behind this was, and again, like I have to remember it, and I'm not sure many people understood it, is that this is the water regulation system. And if you just keep going, it is going to flush you into the wrong direction. So what we need to figure out here is, let's see, to redirect the water, choose the destination and hit apply settings. The computer will automatically open the gates and redirect the regulation device. Note, gates can also be opened by using the valves in case of a computer failure. So I think if you got flushed down there, you had to open these gates manually, but right here you were able to do it. You could see how this was definitely my English again, like water regulator and various other ways what I'm calling. So water is coming from Freeport City and we can redirect it to Sewer B, Freeport C. Sewer B and Freeport C, okay. Now I of course have no idea where I want to go. So I'm gonna change it to coming from Freeport City and going to Sewer B, and let's see what happens. So now if we go out, I think...
Alright, Blade. Looks like you connected the right pipes. Now use the water current to get out of here. And hope that you can get out of the water fast enough.
What? Oh, great.
Okay, so I connected the right pipes going from Freeport City to Freeport Sewers B, because that's where I want to go. I have no idea how I would have known that. I did not actually know this. This was kind of a surprise to me. The fact that there's a there's JC coming in and telling me about it is certainly a good indicator that nobody was actually getting it. And yeah, I think there's actually like these water enemies in here. Yep. Let me try to get them out, take them out. And let's see how I actually make it through here, because I don't remember. Sewer B to pipe, and so on. So what do I do now to actually move along? Connect with the right pipes. Is this me actually? Oh, I think you had to go in through here. And once I'm up here, there's a current, yeah, which then takes me out. And I think if you do the wrong one, you just get smashed in the end, or you get you get shredded to bits at the end. So here we go, and we kind of made it out of. That is a dick move, right? To put a guy right there. Could never do that again in these days. But as I mentioned, there's like no quality control, right? We were just making levels. This is the first professional level I ever made, certainly in this kind of setting, and okay, let's make our way out of here. There we go. And that's how we made it out of the Aqueducts 1. So, interesting, yes? It gives you an idea. This is one of the first professional levels I ever made. Do I like it? Not particularly. I think it has some interesting parts to it. It's way too obscure again, and to obtuse and various other words and qualifiers I could put on there, but hey, that's what it is. So you know what, before we move on, let's go and find the script for this one real quick and just see how that one was written, because I'm just interested. For one, it must have been pretty complex for what you would do in scripts back then. And let's just see if there's anything in here that, like any Easter egg. Ritual entertainment. This script is so messed up and unoptimized it's not funny anymore, but it works. Okay, that's interesting. Mission objective stats, find a way out. Lots of door handles. So every door that you did was actually like scripted in here. Character initialized thread, generic. So let's find some things. There's a bunch of German stuff in here. Nets, for example, is a German word for, you know, some sort of filtering, like the filtering device. I called it nets in here. But then most of it is pump gate. Start of the level, 8-kit, and so on. Character scripting. Let's keep going and going. Spider-Man threat. Gun. Big bad man threat. We want to make him swim so he can deal with being underwater. I think this is the guy who locks me in early on. But I wouldn't know for sure. 6 Days and 7 Nights. So that was a movie which came out at that point. It had like Harrison Ford and Anne Hesh maybe in it. And I think I had the soundtrack for it as well, which I liked, which I used to listen to. Apparently that was enough on my mind to use it as a function name, which, you know, it's one of those things where there were no standards whatsoever, and I would never program this way. Certainly not these days, but back then I remember there were a bunch of path notes that Charlie had in one of his levels that he named after his high school girlfriends and buddies, right? Instead of using descriptive names so somebody else could come in, it was actually named after just people, and there was absolutely no connection. So a lot of this really is it's kind of the Wild West in these kind of scripts. Let's see what else. It's just awesome. So you see a lot of scripting for such a tiny level, right? Because it does a lot of things, I guess. Flood sequence. So threat nets close threat. This is where we get flooded in. Sergeant Taunts, that's him walking around and playing animations and so on. Get all that water out again, break glass to control and let water flood it. Flood eye candy. I guess these things were actually like floating around. We didn't even notice it because it was way too hectic. Nets open and close. And then I'm only halfway through. Open keycard code. Water flood command. So this is the actual like water console. And so there's a menu for it. Let's try to find that. Menus AQ1. So I'm actually going to try to find that in my directory right here. Maps, menus 1. Not sure if I'm able to find it. Nth huts. No. I'm not sure I'll be able to find this. It would actually be interesting for me to go back and find these menus and see how exactly. I think it was like an HTML light kind of language. Well, at least not in format, but just what you could do with it. Yeah, guys, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I can actually find it now. Maybe later. GFX, global. There's scripts in here as well. Yeah, I'm not sure. Sorry. Okay, well, let's just keep going through here. So, but there's a menu for this, and then this is how this entire thing was actually scripted. Nix geht mehr. That's definitely German. Means nothing goes anymore. Console sec level if string equal open. So you know, there's only so much interest we can derive from looking at these scripts forever. I think it's just interesting to see how much information was in these kind of scripts, and you know what was put, like what kind of work was put into this. Ritual started selling all of these kind of tools later under the name, I think, Uber Tools is what it was called. And 2015, because they had experience making the official SiN mission pack, of course, used this kind of scripting language to make Medal of Honor, and I think they kept using it for quite a while. I don't know at what point they must have switched, and I think they created their own language, but I think maybe even the initial Call of Duties were created in this kind of scripting language and with these kind of tools. So that's where it's kind of interesting. Okay, let's go back to the game. Let's look at the last map I made, and that one was Chem 2. There's a whole bunch of additional cutscenes we could look at here as well. But at some point, after the end of Act 1 pretty much, after you hunt down Mancini, like the guy that was robbing the bank, he turns into this monster after being injected by Alexis, which I made a cutscene for which is interesting. Maybe we'll look at it later. But after this, you find out that this drug that has been flooding the streets is coming from a chemical plant with a pretty normal front, and that is Chem 1 and Chem 2. Charlie Wiederhold made Chem 1 as a level, and I made Chem 2, and I want to look at Chem 1 initially because I just want to set it up a little bit, just to give you an idea of what the ambitions were behind this level, and to give you an idea of how we ultimately failed pretty badly, about what it could have been.
I haven't been able to hack into their security systems yet. You're on your own.
Keep working on it, JC. I'm gonna need all the help I can get.
Will do, boss. Make sure you avoid everyone in the plant, Blade. Anyone could sound the alarm, and I can't do anything about it.
I've had to sneak into places before, JC.
Alright, tough guy. Just reminding you, don't forget about those security cameras.
I got it already, JC. Go back to hacking. Let me do the breaking and entering, okay?
Okay. So the idea is that this is a stealth level, obviously, and that this stealth level heavily influences how Chem 2, which is my level, actually plays out. The problem is that, and this is just a general lesson for all game designers out there, we had no systemic support for stealth gameplay at all. And because of it, the level designer was trying to special case everything and just hack everything in there, which is a bad idea, I'll tell you right now. So this level is incredibly obtuse. If we're looking at our objectives right here, disable the secretary watching the security camera. Well, first of all, looking at this objective, how would I know this is the player? Why does the objective delivered to the game designer, or maybe JC, already know more than what I know? Right, so I think it's a bad objective, because it's not something that the player is obvious from playing the level. Then I'm supposed to steal a security access card and then steal info on U4. And secondary objective, remain undetected. So I'm just going to show you, I think, how I can go through here. So there's the secretary, and she already saw me. Oh my god. No feedback, right? Like, apparently, she saw me, she flipped an alarm, there's the security camera in the back there, we can see. And this mission is over. That is entirely unacceptable. This is incredibly, not good. The underlying idea behind it is nice, but if you're going to make a stealth game, you need to have the systemic feature set and the support in the game systems that a game like Thief at the same time frame, for example, had. You cannot be as punishing to the player and fail the game left and right for no warning. I think what I have to do here is run in here when she has her back to me, and she saw me again, and I have no idea why. And by the way, punch her out. I mean, what kind of game does that? This was us 22 or so, and Ritual as a company with this kind of game, but I'm like, I would not make these kind of levels and these kind of games anymore, right? I have to run in here, run up to the to the secretary and punch her out before she can pull a lever. A security alarm right here, which is impossible to see. Now once I'm in here, I can actually look. You can see how the layout is a little bit broken at the bottom there, where security camera 1 does not match up with the layout right there. But I can actually look around now. I don't think I get much information out of it, but I get a general idea as to what this level is about. So ultimately what you do in this level, let's just come back out, is sneak around And so if you escalate it, you can just make your way to an elevator which goes down into Chem 2, and the alarms are already raised. The way you make it through here undetected, by the way, once again, there's a trigger here that detects whether you're crouching or not, right here. Because if you walk by this, guys start running towards security alarms and immediately fail you again. It's pretty terrible, really. But yeah, so I can actually go through here. And that's how I get into that lab, I guess.
No reason for me to go in there.
Okay, well, game designer telling me through the main protagonist what I can and can't do. Interesting. Okay. Let's see, I think there's some guards here. That's the guy. There's no alarms here, which is good, I guess. Yeah, so now I'm all the way in. If I remember correctly, and I don't even know how to do this, theoretically, and hey look, I have a stealth pistol, which I had no idea I had. I think theoretically I can actually run up here, and that gets me to a fan, which I can disable for Chem 2 as well. But ultimately what I have to do, and I'm just going to load a save game now, because I did this before this stream. I can find myself a security pass, and I can find myself one of these yellow jumpsuits that the workers here are wearing. And if I do all of this, and make it to level 2 without raising the alarms, I think it might be this one, then I can make it to Chem 2, which is my level, without being detected. There are so many ways in which that is broken as well, like this level getting to this point, because once I find, you can see down here at the left corner how I'm cycling through my 2 inventory items. I have the keycard and I have the suit, except that I cannot put it on using the use key. I have to wait until Chem 2 when he puts it on. So even after I find this suit, people still don't still recognize me and still raise the alarm. There's just so many ways in this was screwed up. So, but the really sad thing about it really is that I put a lot of work into this level, let's just go there, that nobody ever saw. Just like Aqueduct, where somebody comes in who remembers playing SiN from back then and wonders if that was a mission pack level because he never saw it. Well, nobody really saw most of my work either, or all of our work. I'm not trying to like be specific to me, because all of these cool ideas that we had were just not at all communicated to the player. So I've done everything correctly now, after, like playing Charlie's level correctly. And we had coordinated, right? My level is no better than his. We both just didn't put enough work into really making sure that none of this was obtuse and was very obvious to the player. But there's actually a lot of depth in here that nobody quite get, because we didn't coordinate well enough and we weren't player friendly enough. You have to remember, this was all of our first industry jobs, certainly making these kind of games. We were not used to actually having to look out for the player in this capacity. The Doom levels and the Quake levels I made, if I liked them, and everybody else was going to like them. I didn't really need much playtesting. The only thing that was really required in the first place was, good enemy and ammo balancing. But generally they were very straightforward. Now for these kind of levels, I knew how to play this, and I thought it was incredibly cool, except that I did not put myself into the mindset of an uninitiated player. And because of that, this is so complex and obtuse that nobody really got it. But hey, so now that we've played it correctly, let's go to Chem 2, which is like my main level that I really made for SiN.
Oh man, nice outfit, Blade.
Thanks, JC. I see you've hacked your way into the security computers.
Just the security cam so far. I'm working on the rest.
So here we are. So now I cannot be detected. Of course, once again, some pretty ham-fisted
Wow, man, there's some heavy
dialogue.
security down here. I don't know how long before people will recognize you in that funny outfit. But as long as you keep quiet and don't do anything suspicious, you should be able to go unnoticed.
Okay.
Man, these guys are some serious players. Security's tighter than Fort Knox.
So one way I could do this, I think, was to follow this guy. This is one of the actual main scientists, and I think the idea was that I could follow him. Let's see if I could actually do this. Oh, okay, now he's already gone all the way through. I think there must have been a way to actually take him out and then go through here. But so now we are stuck in this initial part, like the Fort Knox part, as we just heard, of this level. Nobody recognizes me. There's no clear rule as to when they are going to recognize me. If I jump on the table, for example, nobody cares. If I pick this up, I think they actually start recognizing me. Now, the rules as to how...
That sure doesn't help me.
So, you know, there is no systemic rule set. A good stealth game has a clear rule set that the player can internalize as to what is socially acceptable and what not, and what is actually going to blow cover, right? This is the only level that does this in this game in the first place. So everything in here is custom made, everything is special made, and the only way to actually figure out whether something works or doesn't work is through trial and error.
I'm working on the rest.
So let's actually do a save point right here. So you could dance on things. You can actually... I know...
Before people will recognize you in that funny outfit. But as long as you keep quiet and don't do anything suspicious, you should be able to go unnoticed.
So I can do... I have a gun, and they don't notice it. I remember actually wanting detection for when your gun comes out, but I never got it. So the idea is that I can just walk through here again and see what everybody's doing.
Man, these guys are some serious players. Security's tighter than Fort Knox.
So this was one of my references to Clan O'Crana. Would you die for this? You see this in pretty much all my levels, starting from Beyond Belief, really. So that's where this one came in. There is, I think, a secret back here, where I just get a bunch of glow sticks that I can pick up. We have a security system here. He recognized me for whatever reason, because I'm standing close enough to it. I have no idea why, again. I'm going to load this again, because I actually want to look at all the different ways in which you could play this. But, you know, I'm breaking this, because I don't remember what the rules were, which I made up. Just kind of willy-nilly.
There's some heavy security down here. I don't know how long before people will recognize you in that funny outfit. But as long as you keep quiet and don't do anything suspicious, you should be able to go unnoticed.
Yeah, so the thing that we can do is when he's out of the door, we can punch her out. No, he noticed me. Maybe he wasn't gone yet enough. Maybe I have to wait. But so there are a bunch of different ways in which you can get through here, actually. And just by default, this was just had already escalated into combat anyway, right?
But as long as you keep quiet and don't do anything suspicious, you should be able to go unnoticed.
I'm sorry, I just meant to actually save and not load, because I didn't want to hear this this dialogue again and again. So let's just go through here real quick.
Security down here. I don't know how long before people...
Man, these guys are some serious players. Security's tighter than Fort Knox.
Dialogue, just stomping on each other. So let's just go through here like this. Try to not do anything that would annoy these people and save again. Okay. So you can see these guys, they actually have a very sophisticated...
Well, there's certainly a lot of chemicals around here. How do I find the U4, JC?
If they have any U4 here, you'll recognize it when you see it. Don't pay attention to those test tubes in the labs.
This was again me adding some dialogue to make sure that players knew what they were looking for, because my main objective here is to find a sample of U4. Yeah, so these guys are actually... they're doing like an entire bioscan sequence, right? Where he goes, he starts the bioscan right now. Once he's done, he writes down his findings. And then I think he goes and picks up another sample. He uses the button. I think all of these guys were called Charlie 1 and 2, because my friend Charlie Wiederhold, that was sitting right next to me, was heavily referenced in here. So now he picks a sample up, he puts it in the U4, into the bioscanner, that's the U4. So theoretically it's in there. Now he goes and starts another sequence, and so on. So Again, how many people saw this? Not a lot. I think there's a secret here, because I actually made it all the way in here. So there's some health and some more glow sticks. There's another guy back here, kind of running the same experiments. So let me try to remember, saving again, how to best make it through here. So there's a couple of ways in which I think I can do this. So for one, I think I want to take out this guy and then take out the secretary before she gets to the security alarm. Now again, what does it say that I'm just shooting secretaries here, and how is that socially acceptable? But hey, we weren't worried about it back then. So there is a duct here. Security down there. If I was to raise security, I can actually throw some glow sticks here to illuminate our way. But so, if I didn't make it in, I don't even know where all of this reached. If I didn't make it in by following the guy correctly, and as I said, I don't remember exactly how that worked. I don't even know where. I think there's a ladder here. Let's see, I think this just gets me all the way in. Into the chemical lab. Let's see. Yeah, okay, so once I'm in here, I have alerted everybody apparently. So now I'm in the high security area. Of course I don't know that as the player, right? How would I know that I just actually made it through security? So, once again, I think it's a cool level, it's a cool setup, it's just that nobody was able to actually... Okay, let's do this again. And let's take a different approach. So we could also do... And this only worked, well, I don't actually know if it only worked, but I think it only worked if in Chem 1 I had found this incredibly hard to find, I almost want to call it the secret level area where I was able to disable and destroy a fan, which at this point then allows me to proceed. Here we go. So this was actually wrong again. Once again, how would I know where I'm going in the first place? So let's find that. This was one of the ways in which you could get in. I would have to think that 99% of the people went through it that way. Like went through it like through one of these vents or so, because there was no way they were able to find the correct way in. The way I figured if you were playing it well, you actually would be able to finish this level. Here we go, yeah. So yeah, this is disabled because I disabled it in Chem 1.
This door won't budge.
So, see, I can jump down here. Oh no, okay, so now I remember how this works. So if I go back, if I did this in Chem 1, then this fan was already disabled and I could just make it through here. If I didn't find it in Chem 1, I could actually knock everybody out here and use... Let's see. That is correct. Then I think I could use the computer right here to turn it off. So here we have security cameras. Does not have security level to access the security camera menu. Okay. So ventilation system, I could... Technical difficulties because they're already turned off. But I could actually start a fan test sequence which would turn it off for, I don't know, just long enough to go to the fan and make your way through it. And then you could go to the console, and I have no idea what I integrated in here. So we have dear CLS edit and exit. So chemsec exe, chemsec password, and chemsec ini. Well, let's try. You could edit. You see how in the other one it was type, and this one it's edit. Edit chemsec.ini. What does it give us? Okay. Edit chemsec.password. I can't actually do anything here. If I can. What's CLS? Oh, just clear screen, I guess. And then, so I could do exit, or I think I could just start up the program again. But okay, so let's actually make our way into this level the correct way. One of the ways. Slide our way. Doesn't work right here for whatever reason. Okay. And now we can make it through here, and now we have to down. Here we are. And for whatever reason this isn't actually working correctly. I'm getting sucked in here, but that's okay.
You know the drill, Blade. If it won't go away, shoot it.
And then of course I have JC coming in again, telling me, okay, so at this point it looks like I have to... Okay, there's nothing here, I think. So at this point everybody knows about me anyway.
That sure doesn't help me.
And I think this was a forced failure
You can turn
actually.
it off somewhere.
Don't need it.
Well, I think I could turn it off again, but... Like, at some point somebody was going to raise one of these alarms, and there is a way in which I'll be able to turn it off again. But this now creates a never-ending stream of enemies. Now this is on the other side of the security clearance that the professor or whatever went through. So let's just play a little bit here and see if we can... Whoa, well, let's play a little bit. That's not good. I had no idea I was this close to getting killed. Should save a little bit more often again then. Okay, so it looks like we have to do this again. And we will do it much faster now. So yes, Hardcore Gaming, circa 1998. But just in general, I feel like there's a lot of creativity in here. Like if I had to evaluate myself, I think, you know, it's kind of clever the way that I like the way in which you have different options to get into this level and so on. It's just that there was nobody to then mentor me or just mentor all of us in general. In that, right, like we just did not have the experience to then. Oh, look, I think I'm actually stuck here now because of a bug, maybe. Let's cheat here because I didn't just quite have the maturity of having done this kind of game
You know
before.
the drill, Blade. If it
And
won't go away, shoot it.
Now, if we'd known about it, see if I can get the guy who's running. Yeah, look, I took him out before he reached the alarm this time. Good, let's save right here. And then let's make sure nobody else gets to the alarm either. But yeah, we just didn't have anybody who gave us a good idea as to how to... I'm at 8 health, unfortunately, so I need to be very careful here. 12 health now. Awesome. Pizza gives me not a lot of energy. But yeah, we just didn't have anybody who then had the experience and the foresight to say, now do user testing, now make sure that all of this is actually accessible to the player, and players actually know about it.
Completely into the chamber before activating the scanner.
Okay, so I need 2 different keycards here. And because of that, as a game, this was just way too hardcore. Whoa,
Talk to
damn
me,
it.
man.
Killed again. This is gonna be a little bit difficult. I need to find some health. Get that guy. Let's see if I can take this guy out. A nice headshot. I don't know if I have to shoot these guys before they run to... I think I got them from raising it. Yes. Okay, so the alarms are still not raised. At least I could do that. I also remember struggling with exactly what this part of the... oh, thank you very much. What exactly this part of the lab should look like, because, you know, there's only so much detail or like lab-like stuff you can put in here. So in a Quake level you just make cool stuff. which is cool dungeon stuff, but here all of this is supposed to make sense to a certain degree. Oh, there's a security guy. Let's make sure I don't get him. Oh. Another guy there? Oh, nobody still raised the alarm.
Already got it.
Make sure we keep it that way. That's the guy from before. So I think he actually can call him all the way.
That scientist must have identification for the high security area. Follow him.
Okay, let's follow him. Shooting innocent scientists. Let's see where he's going. Not where that guy's going. Okay, and at this point, somebody has raised the alarm. And I'll have to figure out a way to turn that off again. So let's just stay with the program here, people, and let's see if I can make this. Oh man, come on!
Already got it.
I can still cheat this. Scanner. Oops, that just turned me around.
Already got it.
So, oh, look at all these people.
Hey, there he is above you! Get him!
Oh, he's above me, okay.
Security, get him!
See if I can get him. He must have a keycard was the idea, right? I know this. It doesn't mean that any player would have known this. Here he is. Okay, I got him. Which I think now means that I got a white security card, which I think I can use.
Please step completely into the chamber before activating the scanner.
I'm on 1 health, and I'm gonna save right now. So this, again, this kind of message was only there because this door right here, which is gonna come slamming down when I do this, could easily kill you if you're not standing exactly where you're supposed to stand. And of course, the much nicer way of dealing with that is to make sure it just can't happen instead of tell the player what to do. Here we go. Now we're in high security land. Even higher security land, I guess. And oh, the alarms themselves are not on anymore. That is good. Let's see. There's another Charlie. So all of these guys are called Charlies. All of these like scientists. There's some sort of chemical device here that is routing chemicals all through. There's some health. Let's save again. All through the facility. Like, I guess it's supposed to be black light. That was the idea behind it. All of these labs. They are working away at, I guess, what is C4, but we have to find. There's another Charlie. Not anymore. A little bit gory, especially back then. Before he was just. Here's a blue key card, which, if we remember, was for that door. We should go back there and find it. Here I found some adrenaline, I believe. That's what it is. What's this? I have a blue key card. Let's actually try to use that. Put that to good use. I think what I have to do is go all the way back through here. Whoa! I almost ran into this. This would just have jibbed me. Okay, and here we go. So this, I think, is part of a secret weapon.
What's this?
Looks like a part of some kind of weapon system. Hey, see if you can find more pieces.
It's like the worst secret ever. Like I get some glow sticks. I don't need glow sticks. But yeah. So I think you find the second part of this weapon later on if you want to. Some of this was built by Giggler, by Mike Baldwin before I took it over, by the way. But ultimately, I pretty much remade the entire level. One of the really painful lessons I learned on this level, by the way, is that I think I lost 2 hours of work or even more where I had not saved and my computer crashed. And I was so mad at myself. Just steaming. Because I had to rebuild all of this stuff. And I was just kicking things and so on. And at some point, Charlie just started chastising me for, you know, well, then save more, but don't take it out on everybody else. And be professional and like deal with it. And I'll just redo the work. Like you just throwing a tantrum here does not actually fix anything. But that certainly was a lesson, especially working with some other editors which would crash more frequently. Early Unreal for example, the version of Unreal we used to make the annual mission pack would crash all the time. You just
JC, it looks like they're making you war right here.
Blade, we can really use
yeah,
a
so
pure
you know that's the lesson
sample of
learned right
C4.
there.
See if you can get into the storage facility.
Okay, so we need a sample of C4. We're making it right here. How do I get into the storage facility? Can I get in here? Now this part opens. Okay.
Wow, it's cold in here.
It's cold in here, that's good. So I can't do anything here though. Theoretically there's something here. I know there's something here. I don't think this is necessarily very well communicated, so I think I need to erase that first. Okay. So let's see. Somebody loves pizza. This is the office of that high-ranking scientist. Please enter your personal password, Mr. Scander. I have no idea.
JC, can you find the password for this guy in the computer?
I'm sorry, boss. They've got some really tough security barriers here. I mean, I'll try, but you better locate a console and try to find that password yourself.
Right. So what we do then, of course, once again, you know, this is the all-knowing hacker who conveniently, when the game designer needs him to, cannot actually figure something out. So we have our security cameras here. They don't really help us that much anymore. But here we go. So for one, this is where I could have turned off the security camera, security alarms, security cameras. So they're all on lines. Don't think I can do anything about it. Search password database. So remember what this guy was called, right? He was called Scander. And maybe you get it, because Scander Martin, security clearance level 9, status administrator, password Well of Souls. Okay, that's his password. I'm a huge fan of the Well world. Certainly was back then, you know, and still am, I guess. I just haven't read it for a little while, but I was a huge fan of the Well world series by Jack Chalker. And Scander is one of the guys from that book, and Well of Souls, of course, is the planet that you go to in that book series. So I'm pretty sure nobody in legal ever cleared this, and nobody ever sued us. But yeah, here we go. U4 storage. Open U4 storage. Let's bring that up. See if we can actually see that coming up in the back there. Hey, look, it's coming out. Let's see what else we can do. Return to main menu, lift control, activate lift. So I guess that wasn't actually activated before, so now I can actually go up and down. And yeah, Well of Souls you also see in the annual mission pack, which we'll look at some point, because one of the worlds, or one of the hexes really in that world is called Glatriel, which is where the humans originally come from. And of course I have Glatriel Village in the annual mission pack. So here it is, U4. Sorry, not C4, U4. I found it.
Alright, Blade.
And I just triggered alarms, I
Find a
guess.
bioscanner and put a transmitter on it so I can download the U4 info.
Okay, so now what we need to do is find a bioscanner and put a transmitter on it. So there was a bioscanner, I don't think in here, I think it's below. So we're going to use our newfound lift, our personal lift from Dr. Scander, to go down here. This, by the way, is where security comes out, spider bots come out. This, I think, is where it's one way in which we can exit in the end. And we'll look at exactly how we get out of here later, because once again, it's one of those ways that is not at all obvious. Again, I do remember trying to build this and trying to make it interesting looking, while not having just like anonymous dungeons from Quake, for example, and just what do you do on the walls, what do you do with the lighting, what do you do with the ceilings to just get some level of interest in here, to not just make something a square room, you know, that's very office-like with no distinguishing features. Oh, and look, there they are. So I think the alarms are now triggered enough to the point where these spider bots have been triggered.
Blade is down.
Oh,
I repeat, Blade is down.
And that killed me. So let's see if I it's again, it's so obtuse, right? Like, how would I know that that's actually what happened? Yes, I got it right here as a warning, but so are the alarms triggered now? This, by the way, is a avoid security is a forced failure. I hate those objectives. I would never do that again today, but you know, back then I guess I didn't mind that much. Let's see if we can turn things off again here. So let's do exit and security alarms. Deactivate security alarms. Okay, so now they're deactivated again. Which should help us. Well, I mean, those guys are already down there. Not much I'm going to do about them. Let's see if I can do this without dying. Unless we're cool enemies, even for back then. You know, spider bots are pretty straightforward, but at some point we had little spider bots that you could control yourself. I hate how you can actually, if you do this, the shots never get there if you do it just right, because your shots hit the corner. Anyway, here we are. That looks like a bioscanner. Let's put some C4 in there. Again, like there's no sheen, there's no glow. How would you know this? There's people who played this game back then and figured it out, of course, right? But when it comes to accessibility, I think we can do so much better, people, and would do so much better these days. So I'm gonna do a bioscan, and let's see what happens.
Okay,
Here we go.
downloading
So I
you
wrote
more
all of
info.
this at some point, I guess, like JC's little helper. And then this was all. Here we go.
Whoa, Blade. This is heavy stuff. A narco-helical DNA matrix of some sort. I'll tell you more as I find out.
And naturally, he immediately analyzes it and finds out exactly, well, to a degree, what it is. Here we go. Transfer complete. So I think the only thing that we need to do now is to escape from the chem plant. And how would you know how to do that? Because I wouldn't. I remember there was a way out back here, but I'm not even sure I'll be able to find that. Because I'm not sure how you would do that. I don't even know if you could blow up something here. Pretty sure you can't. I'm not even gonna try. I'm only wasting ammo right in here. I'm pretty sure that, but I'm pretty sure there was a way through here. In fact, let's verify this real quick, because we're pretty much done anyway, and I'd like to know. So yeah, you could get in here, and then make your way out. I think the level ended right there. And then if you went the other way around, yeah, it's just... But we have no idea how to do that, do we? So... let's take the other way out, and there is a way. But as I told you, how would you know? So I'm going to show you how you actually make your way out of here. I mean, I'm feeling guilty just playing it now, because, I mean, I caused a lot of people a lot of time. Probably to find this. The way to make your way out here is down there. You would have found that, right? If you go here before and you actually do find it, this is filled with acid, and as soon as you go in, you die. Once you finish this level, you come down here, and this is actually an exit you can and probably even have to take. So again, I have this feeling that somewhere in here... no, not here. There was a secret that I put in. But yeah, so this is how we exit the level. Oh, and I think maybe you actually couldn't make your way through here. This is just connected to where we just were.
Looks like it's the slimy way out for you.
Because you see how that actually got us here? Except how would you know? It's pretty much impossible to know that, right? But hey, this is how all of this is connected. And this is how we finish my SiN level. Here we go. So there you go. those are pretty much the levels I made. Let's look at one more just to kind of bring some closure to this. I think if I do... Well, let's do a couple of things. I'm wondering if... So I think the Bing file was just in here. Now, you know what, I can't do it. We're not going to look at the actual ending cinematic, but if I add ending, if I open ending... Oh, sorry, map ending. I think this was the last cutscene I made for this game. I made a whole bunch more, which I didn't all want to look at right now. There's probably a whole bunch of Easter eggs in the script and so on. But after you finish this game, you hunt down Alexis Sinclair, and she just kind of disappears.
Hardcore's regulations demand I file a
I made
report.
this.
I find this difficult to imagine due to the unexplained outcome of events which occurred on Alexis Sinclair's island fortress. All of the U4 has been seized, and Syntech's key employees are in custody. Alexis's body was not recovered from the island, and the evidence I found regarding Syntech's quantum destabilizing technology forces me to assume that Alexis Sinclair, the self-proclaimed Mother Nature, has simply vanished without a trace. Status unsolved. Note. While the immediate threat to civilian life has been averted, and all parties involved are currently awaiting prosecution, I will still continue my investigation into Miss Sinclair's disappearance. Some part of me won't let it go. I know she's still alive, and when she resurfaces, I will be there. Colonel J.R. Blade. Hardcore.
So I think JR actually stood for John Romero,
Hey, Knuckles!
just like JC stood for
Get off that computer before you
John
break it.
Carmack.
It's a complicated piece of hardware for a caveman like yourself.
Can it, JC? Speaking of cans, look at what I found here, JC. One last can of kick-ass. I wonder what I should do with it.
Oh, Blade, what are you doing? Look, if you're still mad about that mom joke, I was just
Be
kidding.
ashamed to let it go to waste. Ah, now that's the sound of
There you go, you can actually see me. Oh, there I was in that picture right there.
Lost his mind. Get control down here, quick.
Look at those little legs run. Get back here, boy. Come and get a whooping.
And here we go. There's Charlie Wiederholt in his normal state. I think that's actually him sleeping in the office. But yeah, that's SiN, and that's some of my memories of that time, showing you some of the levels. A whole bunch of additional stuff we could talk about. I think there's a lot to talk about here about, you know, just like how much I learned from that time. The one thing I remember telling everybody, after this game, I left Ritual and went to Legend Entertainment, right? And they were just working on their first game, Wheel of Time. And I kept telling them, once you ship your first game, man, everything changes. Like, you just don't know how much perspective you get from shipping your first game. Having to go through that process, just learning on the job, making levels, and having hindsight, because that's ultimately what it comes down to. When you're making, when you're just making mods, ultimately, for one, you get very, very instant feedback, and you're never really worried how it's perceived, right? Like, it's an established game, established franchise, all the gameplay already works, and you're just modding it, so you know what you've created is pretty much going to work. Chances are you only make a mod for a really good game in the first place, so, you know, what comes out in the end is going to be something that's fun to play as well. Well, starting from scratch right here, from the beginning, and like seeing a game come together, seeing AI come together, like figuring out a whole bunch of things on the job, and then actually coming out with a game that wasn't really, really well perceived. So that's me standing right there. You can see that. I don't know if you can see the mouse cursor actually on the stream or not. But yeah, seeing all of that, like getting that kind of hindsight was really, really interesting. This game, like SiN, was reamed in multiple ways. Like, it was really unstable. The very first Penny Arcade comic that was ever created was about the SiN of long load times, because it took forever. It took over a minute to load the level again. It's way faster now. Well, for one, we fixed a whole bunch of things in the patch, but also, you know, this computer is just faster and it's I/O. But there were so many ways in which people were just like frustrated by this game, and it wasn't a big hit. Like, a bunch of people bought it, but, you know, it wasn't like a big seller. And as I mentioned several times, there's just so much potential in here. There's so much work in here that nobody ever saw, because as developers, we were kind of standing in our own way. We did not create systems and level designs which were clear enough, which were play tested enough, which were actually like bulletproofed enough to make sure that people could have the fun with this game that we wanted them to have with this game. And you know, my levels had some examples of that. You can go through the entire game and you're gonna find tons of additional examples. But yeah, those are all things that I learned by shipping this game. Those are all things that I learned just by you know, having worked on my first professional game. Okay, so I think we are done here. Let's see how we actually get out of here. The one thing we might look at, I don't even know what it's called, but it's in the M10. Probably not. I would have to look it up. Maybe it's actually called whatever. There's like one. Here we go. There's only one deathmatch map I made for this, and I was not easy to deal with back then. I had very strong opinions. I was a pain in the ass regularly, and like the way that SiN deathmatch came out, like, was one of the ways in which, like, I remember being very hard to deal with, because it just wasn't the kind of experience that I wanted. Everybody wanted more of a Duke Nukem Forever kind of experience. I wanted more of a Quake experience, and because of that, I was kind of, you know, I wasn't really invested in making deathmatch levels for this. This, of course, has one of the best deathmatch levels ever, by the Level Lord, by Richard, which was called Behind the Bookcase, which I don't actually know what the map name was. I should look that up, because I think, well, you should look that up yourself, which shrunk you down to like tiny proportions, pretty much like an ant or an insect playing in somebody's living room. But so ultimately, this is actually a really cool deathmatch game. It just wasn't exactly the kind of deathmatch game I wanted to make, and because of it, instead of supporting what we were trying to achieve, I kind of checked out. And that's something just remembering and looking at this level now. This is why this is the only one that I made at that point. But you can see how this has very much a Quake kind of sensibility to it, right? It's just an arena. It's trying to be like kind of like DM4 and Quake 1, for example, all those kind of games. Cool. Well, let's actually quit SiN right here. And I think that's pretty much it. I very much thank you for sticking through me with this and actually watching the stream. Maybe you never played SiN, and not a lot of people have, relatively speaking. And maybe it's give you an idea of like some of the things that this game was actually good at, and you know what we might want to remember it for. I apologize for the technical difficulties we had. We also had a family difficulty. Well, I love my son, so I just had to send him downstairs, and I will actually go and talk to him now and make sure that he's well taken care of. So thank you very much for watching this, either now or later on. If you want to stay on the stream, you have any questions or so on, I don't think you would, but you know, if there's anything you want to say, hey, you can chat a little bit longer. But I will see you again probably in March, after the Game Developers Conference, which is early in March. Until then, or before then, I won't have any time to do streams, but I want to keep going, because you know, this was really, as I mentioned, this entire retrospective is about me kind of rediscovering my the way in which I became a game designer, my development through that. And looking at SiN was pretty much the first clue in that puzzle. And as we keep going through the Unreal Mission Pack, Wheel of Time and Unreal 2, and we keep going, I think there's some really interesting things to discover. So thank you very much, and I hope to see you on the next stream. Goodbye.